My name is Dave Daly, and I'm going to introduce our speaker and presenter, Marla McCutcheon. Marla just did an outstanding job in that first workshop. The room was packed and lots of questions, and it really went over well. A lot of very interesting information. She has a lot of insights, and she's willing to answer your questions kind of as she goes along. So that works out real well. Marla is the president of Synergy Media and Consulting, and that's a results-oriented marketing and public relations firm, innovator in public relations and marketing since the late 1980s. Her client list includes names synonymous with business like Donald Trump, and as well as government agencies, law firms, professional advisory firms, creative artists, corporations with consumer products to sell. So she has a vast experience base, a wide-ranging base, continually progressive. Marla utilizes new media and the web to increase clients' visibility. So without further ado, Marla.
Thank you. Well, the first thing we're going to do, we're in a much smaller group, so this is going to be great. We have a lot of opportunity to talk amongst ourselves as we go along. The first thing we're going to do is introduce ourselves. And I'm going to take just a brief few moments to introduce ourselves. So I'll start by telling you again, I'm Marla McCutcheon. The name of my company is Synergy Media and Consulting. And I'm not a social media expert, but what I am is a marketing and public relations professional. So what I do is actually help my clients, I always say meander the marketing maze. So take a look at what you can do to market your company or your business and really figure out a way that's going to give you strategically the best value. I'm going to go over here and let you introduce yourself.
My name is David Middleman, and I'm trying to put together a business plan for a hospice company. Hospice focuses on people who have a terminal illness and are not seeking a curative treatment. It's a wonderful opportunity to serve patients at the end of their life. But I'm particularly interested in how social media and all types of media and the internet can help bring people together, especially when family members are a long distance away from their loved ones, and how media and the internet can bring people virtually together during that period in their life.
Hi, I'm Mary Ann Lee. My husband has a real estate business, and I have a license as well. And I also have a lot of side websites that I'm doing, businesses and other things.
And what type of industries?
I have little ones, but one is myamericanenglishteacher.com, teaching English. The other one is sidebusiness.com, so listing of side businesses, several ones. And then Lee Real Estate Products.
Yes. We'll go over here. I'm sorry. I look like I was going to talk to you, so why don't you go ahead.
Dave Daly, I'm the owner of an insurance agency in Mission Viejo, Financial Benefit Strategies. We specialize in employee benefits, so group medical insurance, group dental, that type of thing for different companies.
I am Bill Suman. I own and operate an advertising and graphic design agency. I've been in business for 30 years or so. We stopped counting after a while. Our specialty has been focused on franchise advertising, working with startup franchises and ongoing franchises. Our claim to fame is we helped Century 21 start many years ago, and it's our client for many years.
Yes.
Brent Rose, I'm a business estate and tax planning attorney. I really kind of help people accomplish their dreams and leave a legacy for their families, and make sure that we do that at reasonable, minimal cost as much as possible, and really kind of help other people connect, especially business professionals, with others so that they can kind of enhance their own businesses as well.
My name is Bob Baird. I'm a service missionary at the Fountain Valley LDS Employment Center. I'm not interested in looking for more work, but I do help people create personal brands. And I just spent a couple years in China.
I'm Bart Forrest. I am a CPA, and I have my own practice here in Rancho Santa Margarita. And I went to Brigham Young University, undergrad and graduate, and been working since 1986, so a few years.
I'm Larry Lennon. I was a marketing guy in healthcare for a number of years. Right now I'm semi-retired and doing part-time work in various things. My wife and I design science toys for a little company right now. But from time to time I'm looking for part-time work, and this may be a good place to find some.
And you play tennis.
Here and there.
I'm Dan Rhyme. I retired 2 months ago, and I'm ready to start my second career. I'm doing a business in stun kites. And you're the ones that are doing the biotech kind of startup thing?
No, I work for a specialty chemical company for 25 years.
Okay. I know a guy that you need to talk to.
Something
when you're ready
completely
to start.
separate we're starting up together.
I know a guy that you need to talk to. He's all right.
Seth Bowles, structural engineer, worked for KPFF. Been there for 3 years. Been working as a structural engineer for 6 years. Thinking of possibly maybe doing my own thing. Doing some side business right now, so just trying to find out how I might be able to expand that business.
Yes.
I'm Serena Tsai. I'm a export manager at my company, and I'm used to afraid of computer, but today I saw the topic and I will think about it.
There you go.
Kerry Nelson, I'm with Bank of America Merrill Lynch. We do retirement planning. A lot of the stuff we get involved in is very highly restricted because of Finland. So it's interesting to have to market yourself in today's regulated environment. So kind of trying to link in this.
And Melody Goops, I'm looking to get back into the field of investment management and building an online brand.
Thank you.
I'm Bruce Bean. I'm an engineer and an attorney, and I'm trying to avoid retirement. We have a small business that arranges for the notaries to do the signings for people when they refinance their house or buy a new house or whatever. I'm trying to look and expand our client base, obviously.
Back here.
My name's Janelle, and I'm a teacher, and I'm a doctoral program in education, and I'm looking to transition into being an adjunct professor.
My name's Rupert Renica. I'm currently in Americo Vista. I'm under contract through the Delhi Center over in Santa Ana, and working with at-risk communities with trying to develop entrepreneurship and educate the communities.
Excellent. Thank you. Over here in the back. Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't see
No,
you over there. No, I honestly didn't see you get up. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I'm Naomi Talbot. I'm a strength and conditioning coach, performance trainer, sports injuries. I'm just in the process of figuring out what's the next step I need to take to be great in my career.
Great. Thank you.
My name's John Grasso. I've been employed by the same company for 25 years, and my wife and I are thinking about starting up a completely separate company, not in that industry at all.
In what field?
In what company?
The startup.
An investigation company.
Ah.
And I'm Kathy Grasso. We're excited. I've been home for years, and I'm an accountant by trade, but I've just been counting kids for about 30 years. This is going to be really fun.
Great, thank you. Go over here.
My name is DJ Pugmire. I actually just graduated from BYU in public relations. I did an internship over the summer, and now I'm working for my dad doing labor in the meantime, looking for something else. I'm ready to get done with that pretty soon, hopefully.
My name is Aaron Pugmire. I'm his brother. I have experience in sales and marketing for mortgage, healthcare, and also professional sports and entertainment at Chivas USA, which is a soccer team, and I'm just general interest in American sales and marketing.
My name is Donald Chen. I graduated from BYU too long, 37 years ago, so that's why I come here to learn a new stuff. I used to work with AT&T as B2B sales and layout and then find a new small job, and then right now I do myself as a self-employed, and I'm looking for new opportunity, networking as well. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Ryan Hawkins. I'm a commercial real estate broker for Jones Lang LaSalle. We're a global brokerage firm, and I specialize in helping tenants of office and warehouse space reduce their occupancy costs.
I'm Donna Hollenbeck, and I recently started a business called Lasting Impression Service, and it's a cleaning service that my daughter and I have kind of stumbled into, and we're looking to expand and to grow and hopefully service a lot of people. We do, it's evolved, it's still evolving, it's really new. We have been asked to actually watch homes, to clean homes, to garden, a little bit of everything. So we're not sure where it's heading, but we're just going with it, and it seems like it's evolving really well because there's a lot of very busy people out there that don't have time to do these things. So it's nice to meet everybody.
Thank you.
Good evening, I'm Jack Leonard. I'm on the Planning Commission as the chair this year for the City of Rancho Santa Margarita, and I'm also a board member for the South County Management Society.
Thank you. Did I miss anybody? Anyone else that I didn't see? Sorry. Well, really what I'm going to do tonight is I'm definitely going to talk about the correlation between new media and marketing, but I'm going to go back to the basics a little bit. So I'm not only going to talk about new media, I'm going to try to show where it starts. And so with that said, the bottom line is that just if you provide a favorable product or service, that's not enough. You really have to market your business. It's not whether, it's how, how you're going to market your business. It's part of running your business. So I'm just going to kind of throw this question out to the group and see if I can hear some interesting ideas. Does anyone want to share how they're currently marketing their business? Anyone have anything you want to tell us about? Yes.
The traditional way is, for me personally, is we do market research on companies, identify needs and opportunities. We do that a number of different ways, from driving buildings to see over parking lots to getting tenant rosters for buildings, and then identifying key decision makers and then reaching out to them via phone, email, and other print mail.
Great. Anyone else? Yes.
We start with the end result in mind. So, whatever campaign we are running, because we market in several different areas. So, like with the social media sites, for instance, on Facebook, part of the requirements that we'll have for one particular campaign will be run over a 30-day period or a quarter period, and the results that we want to build up either a capital campaign or to build up our customer relations management, and then we analyze it on a daily basis, on a weekly basis, on a monthly basis.
That's great. Anyone else? Yes.
The old way when I worked with the AT&T, we knock at the door by door.
Right.
That's marketing.
Right.
Yes. The flyer, those kind of stuff.
And that is marketing.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, what I did here was I market by word of mouth, and I don't need any more business, right? Because it's just not true. I mean, you absolutely have to market your business, and I don't think any of us would say that we don't want any more business. One of the things you really want is you want to have the right kind of business. You want to make sure that you're finding those people that are going to need your services and really want to work with too. That's also a key component. So I am going to talk a little bit today about achieving marketing success in the new media world. The bottom line is the media today is pervasive. It's everywhere. It's everything. It's media. And how do you drive people to you? Well, you have to drive people to find your content. So I'm going to talk a little bit about what I mean by that and the fact that content is king. The goal for anyone in any business is to build content, is to have substantial information that is building your brand. So what do you do first? Again, you want to target market. The couple people that I heard talking about the examples of what they're doing to market, what I did hear was that you're going after specific groups of people that are going to need your services. So the very first thing you have to do is identify your target market. Not everybody is your market. There's no way that everybody needs your services. So you want to find the people that are more apt to need your services. And how do you get to them? Well, you have to think like them. You have to look for them. So where are they geographically? You know, what networks, what organizations do they belong to? And then, of course, what do they read? You know, you want to be where they're reading. You know, if they're reading on the internet, if they're a trade group, if they're a specific interest, whatever it is, that's where you want to go. The bottom line is all marketing is about relationships. All marketing is about building relationships with those targets. So networking, what we're doing here today is one form of marketing. And what you said, that's one form of marketing. It's basically, it's imperative to any marketing strategy that you build your network. So what I mean by that is you don't just join an organization. If you're going to be involved in something, you want to make sure that you're participating, that you're making yourself visible. You're doing what I'm doing today. You know, you're offering yourself to speak and to demonstrate the knowledge that you have in your field or in your own products. And then one of the keys is to not only meet and greet, like we're going to go out there today and we're going to meet a bunch of people. You might walk away with some business cards, but you follow up with these people. You know, reach out. I'm not going to talk a lot about marketing through websites per se, because that's obviously a whole topic. But the bottom line is a website today is not an online brochure. It used to be whether you're going to have a website. Today it's not whether, it's how you're going to put together a website. And you know, websites have become much more intricate. And what I mean by that is we're not just putting and posting content on our site. We're making sure that the content has a connection. So basically it's very important when you're putting together your website that you're looking for those keywords. And the keywords aren't the words that are specifically to people in your field. They're the keywords that your target market would want to find. I'll talk a little bit more about that, but basically that is important, that you're looking for the keywords that's in your content. I do have a handout, if you care to take it on your way out, is just some helpful tips on creating your websites and things to think about when you're putting your website together. So feel free to take that. The other thing that's really changed is it used to be that when we started with websites, people would say, oh, don't have any video, don't have any flash, because people don't want to see that. Well, throw that out the window. Now we're in the opposite situation. Now we actually find that the more video you have, the more rich content, the more easily people can find you. So I'll talk a little bit more about that, but the one thing that I recommend is if you're doing video, think about making a face-to-face connection. I'm going to take it back to relationships. Because what you're trying to do now with your websites is you're trying to build a relationship. And if not everybody has the opportunity to meet you before they seek you out, at least if you have video of yourself or a demonstration of a knowledge, they might be more inclined to make that connection and find you. The reason why video of yourself, of a person, works is because they're actually making that connection. So somewhere along the line, they feel like they know you, and they're more inclined to find you. I know a person that does video for websites, and they actually have statistics that show that if a person watches 3 videos, and one of those videos has you on it, they'll feel like they've met you, and they'll be more inclined to call you than the other 2 that don't have video. So the one thing, excuse me, what is personal branding? So now, so you talk about branding from the perspective of a business and also personal branding. So basically, I'm going to talk about social media in a little bit, but social media is really personally branding yourself. So you have to ask yourself, if you're going to use social media to market your business, how does that personal brand fit into your own marketplace? Social media enables everybody to have their own brand. Not just your own daughter, she has her own brand. If you go on her Facebook page, she's got a certain image that I see. I don't know if she sees it, but basically she's branding herself to all those people that are following her on Facebook, all those people that are her Facebook friends. So basically, in a form, social media is really personally branding. I'm not going to talk a lot about advertising, but you can't help but think about that word and what advertising is. What advertising used to be is not what it is anymore. because technically advertising is actually non-personal communication. It's one-sided. You put something in, traditionally in a newspaper or even on the web today, and you wait for people to contact you. That's why it's one-sided. So I'm an advocate of public relations. I also studied public relations in college. Back when, I think there were only a couple schools in the country that had it. So I'm an advocate of putting content out. And one of the handouts I have here today is a definition of what marketing is and what public relations is. Because public relations is really, it's more content driven, so it's more editorial driven than advertising. An ad would be something that you basically place. And unless someone really needs that service or that product today, they're less inclined to come after it. Most of the time, people don't take ads, they take articles maybe, that they find a magazine that's interesting, they might see an article that they might clip it out and take it. But generally people don't clip out ads and keep them in a file. That's not something that most people would do. Just a couple words about public relations specifically. Now, public relations generally people think of as media relations. Media relations is about generating a buzz. It's about creating visibility through the media. And so again, if you go back to your target markets and you're thinking about what they read, you're trying to get into those places where they'll look for you, where they read. So basically, today, the majority of people actually get their news online. How many of you actually still take a newspaper that's delivered to your house? Anybody? Great, that's a good number. How many of you read them every day? Excellent. Because most people don't. Most people actually look at the internet to get their news. So with that said, when I first started in public relations and working with clients, it was all about getting your face, on the front cover of the Orange County Register. But today, because most content is actually on the internet, that doesn't have as much value as it used to. Now, there's a lot of value in that because it builds credibility. I mean, let's face it, you can take those articles, you can post them on your website, you can mail them out as a collateral piece showing people that you were featured in an article. That has value. But the reality of this is that most content is really web driven. So there are still ways, a lot of what people have done over the years is hired me and hired my company to increase visibility for their business through the media. So there's a few ways to do that, of course. Now, if you're looking at byline articles, so byline articles are articles that, of course, you write and you have published or printed. So they're usually about something rather than about your company. So, for example, if you're in a trade that you feel that you're a business-to-business type of that's what you're trying to attract is other people in the business. For example, you are interested in attracting people in the accounting profession. One way to get to them, because that's where their target market is they're reading these trade publications, would be to suggest a byline article for one of those publications. Another way to do a similar thing is, I think back to the OJ trial. I don't know why, because I think that's a good example of everybody wanted to be interviewed about the OJ trial, giving commentary. But during that time period, the people that did that became very well known. So it's just a really good example of becoming an expert source to the media. And if you become an expert source to the media, you're again demonstrating your knowledge. And so a lot of my clients will send out information about their background, about what they've done, and offer that to journalists that might actually need sources for articles they're writing. And those articles could be online, they could be in trade publications, pretty much all throughout the media. Yeah.
Would that be considered a contributor to a newspaper company, a news show, or whatever? Is that the same?
Sort of. The thing about it is there's certain media that don't actually take submissions. Like, for example, a lot of newspapers, New York Times, for example, might not take submissions by somebody that would write, because generally speaking, they're hiring their staff to write those articles. However, there are a lot of places to place those type of articles, and trade publications are certain examples. And there are other ways to get those articles published. But yeah, then you're actually, you could be a commentator, or you could be a one-time shot where you just offer an article to them and they publish it. Does that answer your question? Okay. Now, some of this is probably 101 from college, but as far as news releases are, a lot of times people say news releases and they kind of use this lingo incorrectly. A news release is really exactly that. It's a short informational piece about something that's news. So if it's not happening today, it's not worthy of a news release. A news release would be an announcement. It would be something that is happening that you want to give information on that day. So for example, if I called the paper and let them know that I wrote a news release about something happening in my company, but then tell them it was 3 weeks ago, they might not think that that's worthy of publishing. So it's important to, if you have something to say, you have something that somebody's interested in. For an example would be your company has a new product, right? And it's just, going to change the world, this new product. Well, you want to make sure that you have it covered on the day that you actually put that product in the market, because it becomes stale the longer it sits. So why am I bringing this up when I'm talking about the web? Because once again, you're trying to create content on the web, and having news that's directly related to your business or your service or whatever you're doing is important, because again, when we're building content, we're frequently placing information onto the web. So let me show you that this is an example of how you can correlate the two. If you have a press release, it's covered in a newspaper, it's covered in the media, most likely it's going to be found on the internet when people start searching those buzzwords that I talked about earlier. Those specific words that are the keywords about your company. Does that make any sense? Does everyone understand what I'm talking about, like a Google search? The other way, and this is kind of a tip to get your content onto the web, is there's news services. I don't know if any of you have heard of PR Newswire or Business Wire. Has anyone heard of those sources? So basically what those are paid services that will take those press releases, those pieces of news, and they'll blast it out, put it on the wire. And so what that does is several things. First of all, the staffs in most of these media that we're talking about have become really small. So they cannot possibly cover everything. So they go to those wires to find news. They have people that are actually assigned to go through that and to decide which content they're going to put into their publication. All publications, whether they're online or print or even broadcast. I did this for a client of mine yesterday. An example would be one of my clients, which is a law firm, was named to the U.S. News World Reports. They published this report on the best law firms in the United States. Okay, so my client was named one of these law firms. We released a press release yesterday. We paid one of the wire services to put it out for us. And then what happened was many of the publications in Orange County saw this and called us today and said, we'd like to do an article about this. Not only that, once it was released through the wire service is actually sending it out. So what's going to happen is search engines, Google and others, are going to be able to pick up this news and find it. And it's going to create content, which will be driven off of their site. So these news releases I talked about, right? What you're going to do with those news releases is you're going to take those keywords, you're actually going to hyperlink those keywords back to your own website. So if somebody picks up your news release, they see the news release, they can click on those words and they'll automatically go back to your site. There's just so much content that can be driven just that way. Another tip about that is that they have a whole tracking mechanism when you use one of those services also. And I'm not necessarily trying to sell the service, but it's a good illustration. Normally, what will happen with those services today is when you post a news release with them, they'll give you a report. So you'll be able to see how many times people actually searched for those keywords. You'll actually be able to see how many times people opened your release. And then you'll be able to see which news services picked it up and put it through their sources. So like, for example, one of the media services, like New York Times Media Service, if they picked it up, you'll be able to track that and see that they picked it up. Yes?
one thing I was just gonna say too, because like I said, I just got out of school and our teachers emphasized a lot, is depending on your business, like you said, your target market. With the new social media such as blogs and other aspects, a lot of times news services aren't even the best. Like a lot of mommy bloggers these days. My wife's a big blogger. There's like one lady, she reads in Utah called Mini Dialogues. The lady gets like 10,000 hits a day.
Huge, yeah.
So if you have a product that's really applicable to a mother, you wouldn't want to necessarily go to a news source. That's another, like that's one of the places, like you said, an accounting firm, their magazines they have or things like that, their trade magazines.
It's really grassroots.
Yeah,
right?
so the new social media, like it just expands your vision of what you can do because almost everyone is a news source. I'm a news source if I'm a key target for a certain product. So everyone can be.
And you know, it's interesting because one of my clients was a women's feminine hygiene product, believe it or not. So this isn't something that you're really going to be writing about all over, but what we did was we posted exactly what you're saying, discussions about this product on all these blogs, and it actually helped drive clients to look for it. So that's a really good example.
So for someone who didn't study PR, but has other marketing experience, can you define in your best definition of content? I mean, it sounds like it's buzzwords in a search engine optimization type format, but is it, or in an increasing world where somebody like me loves to create the personal connection?
Sure.
For example, I sold ticket packages to companies for a soccer team, and half of them were Hispanic people, and the other half were English. So we had different content for different people.
Right.
But we had to make that personal connection to sell that larger package.
That's right.
But in a world where everybody seems to be going virtual, what is the best way to replace the personal connection on the web? Because it seems like that's about your only choice in an ever-increasing virtual world. I don't know if you're
Yeah, I'm going to cover some of that, but to kind of answer your question, again, it's still back to those targets, right? So you might have 3 different targets for one product, and you're going to be choosing different areas to send it to. So like, for example, you might have a product that you think has a very solid following of people that are Hispanic. So what you'd want to do is you want to place that information on Hispanic news sites, blogs, all of these things where those people are going to go. But your product might be very marketable to others, like you're saying, and so then you want to find them. So in some situations, you actually have to go after several different markets at one time. The problem is you want to be strategic about it. You don't want to just throw everything out and just see where it goes. You want to maybe target one of those markets at a time.
And change the messaging depending on what.
Exactly. Absolutely.
So just a fun little approach.
It is. It really is. Yeah. I mean, I do a lot of work with that. And a lot of what I do, for example, if a client hires me to increase visibility for their company, is to devise like almost a mini plan for each area. And it really goes back to which media, where they are. The thing about social media is, I'm going to start back to what I first started with relationships. Social media is all about relationships. So all the content that you're creating is designed to foster a more intimate relationship, trying to make that connection with people. And that's what social media is. It's social. It's trying to get people to talk about whatever it is you're offering. Now, one of the ways people are doing that, of course, today is blogging. Anybody here blog? The thing about blogging is that it can be a really major commitment. A lot of times I've had people get involved in blogging and then all of a sudden it gets stale because they don't have the time to keep posting new content. A blog is not designed to be a depository for articles. It's really designed to be a two-way communication. So the other thing about blogging is that it gives people the opportunity to comment on what you write. So, you know, if you're a person that doesn't really want to see the negative as well as the positive, you might not want to blog. I mean, there's some ways you can sanitize it, which are sort of technical, but basically it's designed to be a two-way communication. But it does increase content. The more frequently you're blogging, the more frequently you're posting content, the more frequently people are going to find you. Now, the social media, there's so many social media. So today, there are social media for almost every industry, almost every interest group. And so we know a few. The few that people talk about all the time, of course, are Facebook and Twitter. But I would do a lot of work with the legal industry. I work with a lot of law firms, and there are about 10 social media now just in the legal profession. So if you're trying to talk to people in your trade group or people that might be oriented towards your product or service, chances are there's a social media for you. So that's just something to keep in mind that you might want to just do some research on. But I am going to talk a little bit about Facebook, because we are just beginning to match the social data with the business data and see the cause and effect. And what I mean by that is we're just starting to be able to track where people are going. And one of the questions that came up in the last session were, how do you track it? There's things like Google Analytics. There's actually some that are pretty easily available for you to start tracking. There are companies that do this as well, depending upon your industry. But generally speaking, Facebook is still strictly social, and it works for marketing to consumers. So obviously Facebook is social, and so you have friends, you have all your friends, and you can talk about what you're doing next weekend, or what movie you saw, or what concert you went to on Facebook. That's a great forum for that. But what we've done is we've kind of crossed over into the business. Facebook used to be all social, but now that we've crossed over into the business world, there's a lot of individuals that are coming on Facebook and looking for that to be a marketing forum for them. Not every business is necessarily appropriate for Facebook. Generally speaking, it would be consumer-based businesses that you're going to be looking at Facebook. So basically, if you have a retail product, you might want to have a Facebook page created. Now, Facebook pages have become almost like mini websites. I actually have gotten calls recently by numerous companies that are designing Facebook pages just like you would a website. So, so that's something to think about depending upon what type of product or service you're marketing. For example, you mentioned one that might be a great one to put on Facebook because it's, there's the people that are probably going to hire you are a lot of the people that will be on Facebook. So, a page might be a good idea for you. Okay, once you've got your page, how do you get people to find you? Everyone heard about Facebook fans, or I'm sure you're involved in that. Most people today have Facebook pages. So the next step is to get fans by sending an invite to your Facebook friends. And that just starts to build the base for your page and starts to build a following for you. What about Twitter? Does anybody out here use Twitter on a regular basis?
I don't tweet, but I follow some people.
You follow people's?
Yeah.
Do you use Twitter?
We've got about 6 different business accounts just with Twitter for each of the different social programs and outreach programs that we have.
And are you finding that you're building that base?
We connected with Facebook, and then we're also connected to our website. So, the code and the webmaster is all integrated with that. So as soon as a news release goes out on Facebook, it automatically goes to Twitter. And then we also take a look at their hashes, to see what people are using. And then we also utilize like Google Analytics, some of the other resources to just track each of the pages, because it's almost like a full-time job.
It is, absolutely. And I think that's, again, I was talking about that with blogging, but people don't realize until they get involved in it how time-consuming it gets. There are people that hire individuals just to do that for their business because they don't have time to do it. But Twitter...
Sorry, what are the numbers? Everybody might think their perception might be it's the most successful thing since sliced bread, but is it?
Twitter?
Facebook
Oh,
marketing.
Facebook?
Actually getting return on investment more of a business because of that article on your page.
Well, Facebook, again, is social. It's strictly social, unlike LinkedIn. They have different uses. But with Facebook, a lot of what you're doing on Facebook is free, so if you're talking investment with money, but time, right?
Or actual business being transacted because of it.
A good example of how people have used Facebook to their benefit with businesses would be, for example, a store, which they'll offer. I happen to notice Kohl's did this recently. They offered a coupon if you went on and liked something on their Facebook page. They automatically emailed you the coupon, because remember now that everything's linked the emails with Facebook, it's all linked together unless you don't want that. You have to be careful sometimes because I don't think you realize how far the reach is. But an example is that when they build the base for this particular offer by having people like them, and they have more, potentially, yeah, teaser. So that's an example of how, people are doing things.
Marla?
Yeah.
To answer the question, what you said on business to consumers, it's doing well. Business to business, which, are you Kim Pugmire's sons? That kind of business is not. The Business Marketing Association here in Orange County surveyed all the members and everybody that they know to see if they could find any case studies of good success in that area, and they didn't in the business to business yet.
And you know why that is? I think, putting myself on a limb here, but I think a lot of it is a credibility factor. I think from the business to business perspective, it's kind of what I started when I talked about how it used to be that business to business people didn't think they needed a website. Now they realize that they do. And now it's a credible thing to do. But with Facebook, there's just not the credibility factor there with a business to business.
A lot of it also is the time factor that you mentioned. It's a major commitment. One business we look at had 19 fans, and they were spending hours and hours trying to do something, but they were niche market.
Yeah.
So LinkedIn would be more successful than business to business?
I'm sorry?
Is LinkedIn proven to be more successful?
That's going to be my next topic. Yeah, absolutely. And LinkedIn is the opposite. I don't even know any word to say it. It's the opposite of Facebook.
Very professional.
I'm sorry?
Very professional.
Yeah, it's got a very professional forum. That's how it was designed. It actually came to be because it was a job search site. That's where it started. But it's gone far away from that. But it just has a much more professional membership. So, for example, if you're in a profession, and I mentioned I do a lot of work with professional service providers. Most people that are in, law, accounting, financial, those services will be on LinkedIn now. And one of the most important factors about LinkedIn is you need to think very carefully about how you're building your profile. The LinkedIn profile is a resume on steroids, basically. It's your online CV. So you need to put your best foot forward. But the other thing that you need to think about is you need to make sure that the profile is a description of your services from a client's point of view if you're trying to have them find you. So for example, if you are in a very technical field, you don't want to fill your profile with words that they won't understand. That doesn't make any sense if you're trying to attract business through LinkedIn. But again, it drives content. And so you want to make sure that whatever you're putting into your LinkedIn profile has the right keywords. You want to make sure that you're taking advantage of what you have to offer. Being able to have it linked with your, when they find you through the search engines. Now, there's a lot of really good sources available even for Facebook now. They have a help page. LinkedIn has a great learning center. So if you've never done this before, and you really want to make sure, you want to just change your profile and make sure that you're getting the best out of it, I suggest you to go to the LinkedIn Learning Center because there's a lot of helpful tips. The other way to build your LinkedIn base is by joining groups. Do a lot of people here participate in LinkedIn groups? Now, have you found that when you get involved in conversations that people actually start conversing with you beyond those conversations?
Depends on the group. I don't know, in my experience, the smaller the group, the more specialized the industry, particularly if it's in technology like Joomla or CMS or anything like that. It's almost like on the hour, almost on half an hour. But like other organizations like Lions, some of the other ones I find, it's a little bit longer lag, maybe several hours to a day. But I get a lot of responses, when I do post something on LinkedIn.
And the other way that you find, it's just, again, if you're looking at building relationships, it's by offering something to them, to giving them information that they can use or putting them in contact with someone else. It's a connection. So, if you're able to connect with people in your group, then you have more likelihood that they're going to come after you, come and try to find you. The other thing that's interesting is there's this magic number, and it's not really magic, but you'll find that when you start to get to about like 500 contacts on LinkedIn, that's when you actually see commerce start to happen. Did you find that? Yeah, I see you shaking your head. You know, when you have a couple hundred, you might get something, but the more you're building that base, you remember there's like these feelers that go out because your connections are all their connections, and you just broaden your base, so you know you end up with millions of contacts, really. So basically, one of the things I wanted to just say in summary is that marketing for this new millennium is really trying to figure out how to choose how you can speak to your target market. So it's not going to be the same for everyone. Everybody has a completely different formula. And the key to strategically marketing your business is to find out what your formula is. Now, and so it starts with finding your target markets, figuring out where they are, what they read, who they network with, and driving everything and trying to bring everything together. The other thing that's important, and we did touch a little bit on public relations, which is an area of specialty, but people still believe what they read. That is the bottom line. If you see something in print, you generally think it's true. And you have a lot more credibility when someone else is endorsing you, when an article is being written by someone else that is endorsing you, or if you are featured in a trade publication or on a website. That's going to help people build credibility and have confidence in whatever it is you're doing.
Given that information being recommended on LinkedIn is very valuable, right?
It can be, yes. The one thing, you know, last time I had the group here, people got onto a conversation about whether it's a good idea to allow everybody that tries to link with you. Is there an advantage to increasing contacts if you're not really sure anything about them? And it depends on what you're trying to do. It really does. You know, if you want to keep your LinkedIn base close to you, and you really want to make sure that you know everybody that links with you, that is a strategy. That is one way to use LinkedIn. But that's not really what most people are doing. That's not really how you're going to get the benefit. Get the benefit is to get more people to find you. And by increasing your LinkedIn contacts, more people are going to find you.
Isn't there a downside to that? Can you have somebody that would really be malicious and can actually destroy? I mean, have people been able to destroy a business because of having all that content? I mean,
well, anytime you're on the web, you have potential to have people say bad things about you, and it's the same with LinkedIn. I mean, you can always defriend somebody or take them off your LinkedIn profile if something like that happens. I mean, I don't advise anybody to accept a LinkedIn request without looking at who they are. I mean, I had one recently. I got one, it was like from somebody in Botswana, and they just said, oh, I saw your LinkedIn profile, I wanted to connect with you, and that was all they said, and I'm kind of going, no, I don't think so. But obviously you don't want that. But if there's somebody in an industry that's related to you, or you see that they're connected with a group of people that you actually know, that's a good indicator that they're a good contact for you. Yes.
Well, kind of along those same lines, I've kind of gotten into politics with everything that's going on right now, and I find myself more often reading the comments that go along with what the person wrote than really what's written.
Right.
Because I feel like that's a better indicator of where the people are and what they're thinking.
So somebody posts it.
Yeah, and then
what's said after.
Like a blog, on a blog, they got a political blogger, and then they read this and it could be controversial, and I'll go down and if all the comments are contradictory to that, I tend to side more with the comments almost than that. So it's just what people are saying about you really does matter, and that's what social media has changed, is everyone can voice their opinion about a certain product, no matter where it is. And so that's why you really want to be on top of what they're saying, because what people are saying is what, like you said, is going to influence the mood of your key demographic.
People get clever and throw on their websites, do in the comments.
Yeah, it's interesting.
It works, but it's kind of clever.
Groups get upset. I mean, I've seen these heated discussions on some of these groups, and it was like even something I went, you've got to be kidding me. What happened was, it was a group from a particular networking, you know, I guess it was a company, you know, industry-wide networking. So somebody went on that site and recommended another networking in the same field. And all of a sudden there was this argument going back and forth, and they were saying, how could you do this? How could you take our discussion group and try to endorse another
Networking administrator.
I mean, you're just kind of like, are you kidding me? But this stuff goes on all the time. You know, you just kind of have to take it with a grain of salt. I mean, there's some people still that have nothing better to do than just sit there and write on this kind of stuff. Any more topics or questions anyone wants to bring up? Yes.
I think it brings up, you know, a really important, point. I attended a seminar this morning about risk management, and you know, one of the topics that was actually discussed with that was, what is your social media strategy when, you know, inadvertent, you know, customers, clients, other people have, you know, any controversial opinions? How are you going to resolve it? And what is your strategy and implementation that you have in place? So, I mean, it really gets a lot of the creative juices flowing, for me at least, you know, how to be a little bit more forward-thinking to respond to it rather than to react.
Right, absolutely. I saw your hand up.
Yeah, back to the web pages. At what point is it worthwhile to have a professional do a web page, or a person with digital skills put together a pretty good web page or a Facebook page?
Are you talking about a website or
a website or a Facebook page, business Facebook page?
My advice is, if you can afford to have somebody who's a professional do this for you, I completely advise it. If you don't, there are actually a lot of really inexpensive template sites to use. If you're not a person who's ever done it before, you're probably not going to be able to do it because you won't be able to code it properly. So it's very difficult to actually do it yourself. You know, I mean, it's not difficult to throw a page up, but to do a website properly, it's very difficult to do yourself. There are many things to think about. You know, in fact, one of my handouts is related to things to think about when you're putting together a website. So I don't know if I'm answering your question, but my advice is to use a professional. Facebook pages, you don't necessarily need to use a professional. It's, you know, there are more and more people doing that, but it's not as necessary. Anyone else? You know, the one thing that I'm finding is that, well, I've had a lot of people coming to me and saying, I put something out on the web, I don't know what to do, I can't get it off. So, you know, you really do want to think about it. You know, you really do, it's really easy to just shoot something out there without thinking about it. And once it's out there, it's pretty much out there. I mean, there's ways to get rid of it, but it's very difficult. So, you know, that's why when I'm saying, you know, if you can hire a professional, and even with, I talked about releasing news releases on the web, you know, even if you can hire a professional to help you actually write the content, it's a good idea. You know, you don't have to, but you know, the more that you do that, the more you're putting yourself in a better position to get the most from whatever it is that you're trying. Yes?
Can you give us an idea, like, what it might cost to have a professional do a website? Or do press releases, or?
Sure, absolutely. Well, unfortunately, there's such a variance, you know. I mean, you can, like I said, you can put a website up for a couple $100s by using a template. There really are some templates that you can just either buy and download and use. In general, a website ranges, though, between $5,000 and $10,000. I mean, that's a general number. Does that mean you can't do it for less? You absolutely can do it for less. It's possible. I mean, you know, a lot of the freelance people will do it for much less, but you know, it just kind of depends on what you're trying to do. As far as news releases, generally speaking, you know, my company actually helps people write and provide news releases. And generally speaking, you know, just to pay a writer to do news releases isn't that expensive. To actually release a news release on a wire service, they base it on the geographic reach that you're trying. So for example, a California circuit is going to be a lot less than a national circuit. So a California circuit might cost you $175, whereas a national circuit will cost you $1,000. And you always get all the other things. They will help you today. Well, they won't help you embed the hyperlinks, but they'll let you know how, they'll make suggestions to you. They'll help you, they'll look at the content before they post and let you know if you made any major mistakes. And then kind of edit it before they post it as well.
So does your company do websites also, or do you just do press releases? And
The way my company works, in fact it's in my handout, is that we're an umbrella. I actually, for a number of years, I had a PR agency, and all we did was public relations, all we did was media relations. But today what we do is we basically help you figure out what to do to market your company, and then we help you find the right people to put it in place. For example, if you hire an agency, all the people are in-house, so you have to use their people, but you don't pay extra money for us to find the right person for you. So what we do is, like, we would find you a website design that we felt would work best for your company based on your budget. So we don't necessarily do the work to put the website together. We help you figure out the content, figure out the best thing to do to put your best foot forward. Keep in mind what your message statements are. A lot of it comes down to the messaging. And so we help you with the messaging, we help you put it together, and we find someone to design it for you.
okay, thank you.
Yeah.
One question I don't, and I understand it could be out of your field of expertise, but I wanted to answer it, because in my job search, it gets very frustrating just throwing your resume out into the blogosphere. And you talk about your personal brand. How can we utilize the virtual world to our benefit to actually attract maybe our target market, which are those companies or are those recruiters or whomever we want to get them from? Because I've gone from going to Career Builder and actually getting a number and trying to make that personal connection on the phone, but half the time they're like, don't bother me, they don't even return the phone call. But just when I release my resume, it's like, what's the chances that I'm going to get hit on? They're not very good, really.
Yeah.
Especially with the overpopulated demand in the market. Do you have any
Well, I mean,
advice on that?
again, the best way to do that is to do research on the company and to really find out what they're all about and to try to make a connection with something. It's just like writing a resume. When you're sending a resume to a company, you don't want to have one resume for 5 different types of companies. You want to have several resumes that are directly geared to those particular companies. So it's the same thing with the web. So for example, if you're trying to get in touch with a specific type of company, you want to gear whatever you're writing on the website or whatever you're sending to them, whether it's blogging or in social media, to exactly what they do. It's all hitting the same.
So basically transfer their quote-unquote buzzwords onto your resume.
Kind of, yeah. I mean, it's sort of spinning out.
Mirror them.
Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely. Well, thank you. If there's any other questions, feel free to email me. My information's on everything, and I'd be happy to help you as much as I can.
I want to thank Marla for